We're having another one of our conversations about living the Christian life. We're going to have a conversation about a well-known passage in Scripture, Micah 6:8, which says, O mortal, you know what is good. It is to do these things, to seek justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And this has become a verse that is sung, is used in liturgies, is quotable by many people, and has become, for some, a rallying cry, even an anthem for their lives. And so Chris and I are going to have a brief conversation about this passage and how we see it lived, not lived in lives, and what it means for living the Christian life. So you want to dive in?
Yeah, sure. Here's our confession, everyone. We made notes, but we're not sure where the conversation is going to go. So I think I might start with the people that I know that talk about Micah 6:8 on a consistent basis tend to be from progressive Christianity, if I can say that. And sometimes I'm not really happy with labels of traditional and progressive, because say like, is the doctrine of the Trinity a progressive or a conservative doctrine? It's just...
It is. Boilerplate.
It's just, you got to sign on to that to be a Christian. I think that this is one of those verses that even, progressives say it a lot, that this is baseline for being a Christian. This is who we understand God to be. He is a God who cares about justice, cares about mercy, invites us to walk humbly with him. Do you want to...
I agree entirely. I do think that one of the differences between traditionalists on this one and progressives, to use those phrases, is that progressives see this as culture-wide, society-wide, so systemic, to use one of their favorite phrases. And for the more traditionalists, this is seen as personal commitment. And I think that that's also one of the challenges around this issue, and understanding this text, is that we tend to think of justice, when that gets raised, it gets associated with being entirely but systemic things. And I think that justice is also a personal matter. That if real change is going to happen around justice, I have to live it. That changes the way I live my life. Yes, there are things that have to change in society, but I also have to change for this to happen.
Yeah. I'm not a paragon of just living. Like, I'm trying, okay, everyone, I've got ways to go. But one of the things that has captured my imagination, and hopefully my heart as I try to live a just life before my Maker, is the biblical fact that when we live just lives, we're not processing ethical information, but we're living in accordance with the heart and the desire of God. So when we see something that needs to be addressed, when we are Christians, it's not a matter of, spinning up Immanuel Kant or someone. It's a matter of, how have I encountered the heart of God, and how does God's heart urge me forward in this situation? It's something that comes, for me at least, from within, rather than strictly an intellectual exercise.
I agree. I also think that in part of understanding that heart of God, we somehow need to channel our grade 5 self.
Okay, and what do you mean by that?
Well, I think that 10, 11-year-olds have a very strong sense of what's fair.
Oh, they do. You're right.
And that fairness, I think, is a really helpful way of thinking about what's just. So, if it doesn't feel fair, it probably isn't just. And it probably needs to be explored and challenged. If we think we're not being fair, then I think we need to ask ourselves what's going on here. I also think that this business about seeking justice, which is really important, is not so much about seeking justice for myself, but for the other.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So this is not a call to seek my justice, but to seek justice for the other. That my stance, that what's for me, is for myself to exercise mercy against those who have made wrong to me.
Yeah.
So I'm to seek justice for the other and act with mercy myself.
How do you think humility plays into this? We had talked briefly when we said what on earth we're going to say during this. Do you want to chat about humility for a second?
Well, it's walk humbly with God.
Yeah.
So, two parts to that for me are, one is a walk, it's a journey. So this seeking of justice and this being loving mercy are a journey. They're growing. Back to your comment that this is a pattern in our lives that grows. That this is a journey. We learn, we discover new things. That this may be the area for me in this moment, but 10 years from now it will be a different set of issues because I'll grown and the issues will be different. So it's a journey to walk with God in this, and that God is the driver. And you're back to your heart. What's the heart of Jesus in this? What's the heart of God in this? Is that it's His justice and it's His mercy that are the players here. They're the drivers, not my definition of justice, not what I think mercy looks like, but what are His patterns. And so walking with God, letting Him control what I define as just, becomes really important here, because we're not shaping the world in our image.
Yeah.
And in fact, I've got a nice little book on my shelf that says, the world is not ours to save.
Yeah. No.
God's in the business of doing the salvation.
Yeah.
We join Him in what He's doing.
We're not made in each other's image.
Oh, no.
We're made in God's image.
Oh, well, it'd be a terrible thing if people were made in my image. That'd be a really bad thing.
Let's skirt around that conversation. There's a book that we both like, and I'm going to forget the name of it, so I'm not even going to try. But the author argues that becoming a just or a humble or a merciful person is kind of like learning a language. So eventually English comes like second nature, and it comes out of you and you don't have to think about it. But for a lot of years, there's like halting, stumbling steps as we ingrain a system of language and syntax and all that into our mind. I'm thinking of even maybe my son Silas, who, he's trying to learn to speak. Doesn't always work. But maybe that's like me, or like you, or our viewers, that as we say, yes, I want to be a just and a humble person, but it's not like you don't just flick on the switch and become a just and a humble person. You kind of learn and practice and take missed steps.
Absolutely. And learning the balance of the justice and the mercy is important. So I already talked about that we seek justice for the other and exercise mercy ourselves. But when we're maybe called in to be a peacemaker between two or who are at loggerheads with each other, how do we exercise justice and mercy when we're trying to help two who are in conflict? It becomes really interesting and complicated. So yes, these are stumbling things, and we're not always going to get them right, which is back to the humility, but we have to own that we are not going to get these right. That even as we seek justice and mercy, we may need to say, I'm sorry, I blew it. I did this wrong.
Yeah. I'm thinking, and again, I'm not, God's gift to humble living. I'm, trying to be a humble person. But one of the ways that humility is inculcated in me by God's Spirit is, I think I learned to be humble to the extent that that's possible by performing acts of humility. So at first my heart isn't quite in it, confession time. And then slowly you get, and you live into this thing. Do you want to speak to that, if humility is how we approach justice? Is that...
Well, I want to pick up a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
I do think that we act our ways into new ways of being.
Yeah.
So that just as Silas is learning to speak, or someone wants to learn how to play basketball, you've got to do it. You can sit and watch all the basketball games you want and drop all the stuff on a piece of paper, but until you do it, it's not going to happen. So yes, it is about doing it, about living it. And humility then gives us enough space that it's okay to fall flat on our face, to not get it right, to make mistakes, to pick ourselves back up and keep on going. And that's again where the mercy comes in, hopefully, that even as we fall flat on our face, others offer us mercy. and say, you didn't do that quite, that wasn't helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, Lord knows that happens at the church here.
So I think we should give people something concrete. We've been pretty high flying here.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
So, as many of you know, I'm deeply committed to truth reconciliation matters. And I remember a moment where I've been at it a long time. Over 20 years of writing, 5 years of actual engagement around those matters. And part of healing and reconciliation means that Indigenous people get treated with respect. That's the way it's supposed to be. And I remember I and another white male colleague made a bunch of decisions and then told an Indigenous woman what we had decided for her. And she said, "So what part of healing reconciliation don't you get?" And she was bang on right. Both of us are deeply committed to the matter, but still, it's so easy to slip up, so easy to function as though we know best, and not walk with that humility to make justice a prideful thing, as opposed to a humble thing.
Maybe I'll throw in one story, and I guess then we'll wrap up. You can wrap up after that. I've noticed at St. Andrews that this is not to flatter or butter you guys up, but just to celebrate what God is doing here in the church. It's not unusual for folks to come looking for whatever needs they have presented. They come to the office, and sometimes they'll even come on a Sunday morning. And it's happened more than once that when someone arrives, we kind of assume maybe a staff or a pastoral person may look after that. But by the time whoever it is that is supposed to be looking after things get there, one of the congregation members has already taken some out to get new boots, to get lunch, to get new clothes, to get not a hospital room, a hotel room for the evening. So maybe from one last story for me is just to encourage you guys that God is moving in wonderful ways at St. Andrews. And even from, someone who's supposed to have it together, sometimes you guys encourage me and I see the heart of God and the heart of justice and compassion showing through you. So keep it up.
I think the heart of Micah 6:8 is that this should be lived human-sized. Because he says, "O mortal."
Yes, he does.
He recognizes that we're limited.
Mm-hmm.
So that in our limited capacity, we still have the ability to seek justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. That these are, in fact, markers that we can build in our lives. They're not reaching for the moon. They're attainable in our lives where we are. And I think that's good news.
It is, yeah. That God's character shines through his people.
Yeah.
Nice. See everyone.